You've collected the following information about St. Pierre Inc. What is the sustainable growth rate for St. Pierre Inc.? If it does grow at this rate, how much new borrowing will take place in the coming year, assuming a constant debt-to-equity ratio? We're told that St. Pierre Inc. has sales of $195,000, net income of $17,500, dividends of $9,300, total debt of $86,000, and total equity of $58,000. Let's begin by calculating total assets. Our total assets will simply be the sum of our $86,000 in total debt plus the $58,000 in equity. Our total assets are $144,000. To calculate our sustainable growth rate, we're going to need to know our return on equity and our plowback ratio. Let's go ahead and calculate our return on equity. Our return on equity is simply our $17,000 in net income divided by the $195,000 in sales. Our ROE is 30.17%. Our plowback or retention ratio is simply net income minus dividends divided by net income. So our retention ratio is $17,500 minus $9,300 in dividends divided by the $17,500 in net income, or 46.86%. Our sustainable growth rate then is calculated by taking our return on equity of 30.17%, multiplying it by our plowback or retention ratio of 46.86%, and then dividing that quantity by 1 minus our return on equity times our retention ratio. We get a sustainable growth rate of 16.47%. Our sustainable growth rate means that our assets, debt, and equity all will have to increase by this 16.47%. Thus, the new financing we need will be our 16.47% sustainable growth rate multiplied by our current debt of $86,000. We will need new debt financing in the amount of $14,161. What growth rate could be supported with no outside financing at all? To calculate this, we need to calculate our internal sustainable growth rate, which relies on our return on assets. Our return on assets is 12.15%. This is the $17,500 net income divided by our total assets of $144,000. Our internal sustainable growth rate then is simply our return on assets of 12.15% multiplied by our plowback or retention ratio of 46.86%. That quantity divided by 1 minus the quantity of ROA times our retention rate. We have an internal sustainable growth rate. The amount that we could grow without any additional debt financing at all is 6.04%.